and welcome to the Ask More Questions podcast. Today I'm here with Infidale, and it's just going to be two atheists hanging out talking about death. So, hi Dale, how you doing?
On that note, talking about death, I'm doing great because I'm still alive.
Yes, I mean it is good to be alive. I think most days it is hard. I mean it is so challenging right now in the world,
It is, and death seems like it would be easy.
yeah, it seems like it would be easier, but I recently, if I can have a side note, I came across this reel where somebody was like, well, they interviewed all these people that had jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge, and and they survived, right? And so they ask them, they're like, what did you think about the minute you let go of the structure? And it was like this thought of like, oh, I what have I done? You know what I mean? Like they had a moment. So,
Oops.
I guess we could say that to start off that if you're having any kind of thoughts with the world being the way it is, please seek help and seek treatment because, there are better days. They're just a little rough right now and you got to get through them. So, and I say that as someone who's gone to therapy because of death. So, it's good to point that out. So, yeah, let's talk. You're known on the socials.
A little bit.
You have a touch of rowdiness. Is that fair?
Rowdiness is very fair. I like to use the phrase articulately barbed.
Okay.
My words can be a little vicious, and I do come off. I feel like I'm a lighthearted, caring person.
Yeah.
However, my words do come off somewhat viciously. And it is intentional. It's a concerted effort because I feel like I'm speaking up against a vicious or more than one vicious ideologies, which do a lot of harm. So to me, if my words have a little vitriol in them and my words are a little vicious, okay, I'm going up against an ideology that is subjugating and or even killing human beings. So my words affect you and they make you feel sad, okay, good, because you're hurting people and I'm not okay with that. So that's how I look at it as far as being a little articulately barbed.
Articulately barbed. So might have to call that the title of the show. Yeah, so you and I have this thing in common. We're members of the Dead Moms Club, which is honestly not a fantastic club to be part of. But it happens to, I would say, most of us.
In that, that's the order it should happen in. If
yeah, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, but yeah, and there are these questions that come up sometimes, like how where do atheists get their morals? How do atheists think that everything got created, even though that we're not scientists, all of us? So but one of the things is like what do you think happens after death? And then the reoccurring, like that's one thing, right? This idea of like, well, what happens when we die? And then you've got this other idea of how do we deal with death? Because I know that as a former Christian, that there is this idea that the death is a beautiful transition to a special place, right? And there's this I don't know, there's a verse, talks about where's the sting, grave, where's your victory? It's like, well, it's just a sting, but the reality of it is the reality of it is I've seen a lot of Christians grieve hard, myself included, when that event actually happens, to someone else in our life that we really care about. So I think there's a little bit of a facade there whenever it comes to accepting the reality of things. But so this is what this episode will be about. We'll talk about that. But first, give me a little bit of background. Give me some of your history.
Right.
Where were you born? How were you raised? What was your favorite cartoon? Whatever.
Starting with the born and raised, leading into the death of my mother is a good thing.
Okay.
Good lead in, because I was raised by a single mother. I was born in New Jersey. My father, basically, long story short, left my mother. They went through a divorce before I was 1 year old.
Oh, okay.
I found out these things later in life. However, he was cheating on my mother with his brother's wife.
Jeez. It's a
Yeah.
Jerry Springer episode.
Oh, 100% Jerry Springer. But
Yeah.
because it was my life, it was very different. He ended up marrying her. He left my mother, ended up marrying his brother's wife.
Okay.
They ended up getting divorced, and that was only his second wife. So you get the picture there.
Yeah.
I guess if they stayed together, it almost would have been something that I could have dealt with a little better. Like, oh, he left her because he was in love. My mother,
Yeah.
However, my mother, wonderful mother. Like, we had a great relationship. Single mother, only child. She worked a lot. I was back then what they would call a latchkey kid. I went to school, would come home, there'd be a key hidden somewhere, or I had a key or a key hidden somewhere, and I would be home by myself until after dark. My mother got home around 7:30 at night, every night, and for a little kid, from 2:30 in the afternoon until 7:30 is pretty much the evening. So I would make dinner for myself and stuff. She'd get home, and we'd spend an hour or two together, and that would be the nights. But she worked really hard. So I had, we weren't well off, but I never went without. And I think when I got a little older, I realized I had more than I should have. So I was spoiled. She treated only child, single mother, and I
Only
think a little
child,
of
right?
that was
Yeah.
treating me. I would definitely was a spoiled child. But we were just very, very, very close. And I had a good relationship. School was very social for me. That's where I went to have fun and hang out with my friends. I did not care about my education at all. And I don't mean even when I was young, but even until after high school, I did not care about my education in high school at all. It was just about partying and wanting to get to the end of the day, or skipping school or whatever. I was a partier. And I also wasn't friends with, and this is something that comes around to me later in life now, I wasn't friends with the people who I want to be friends with now. Comic
Interesting.
books and sci-fi were so far from my brain. It was about sports and women, and nothing to do, sports, women, and partying, nothing to do with science. Or there's the Dungeons and Dragons kids, and then there's the sports kids, and that's what it was to me.
Yeah.
I was the type who, like, they were dorks or nerds or whatever, and I don't think I was a bad guy, but I had this classism thing in my brain with, I want to be one of the cool kids. So I was kind of like more leaning in that direction. Didn't realize how much I was missing until later in life. I was a huge sports fan growing up I was just outside of Philly in South Jersey. So for me, it was all Philadelphia sports, and that was my life. And a lot of people who now are not into sports and are into the sciences and theology and the things I'm into laugh at me for being so obsessed with that stuff. They call it sports ball, or, they joke like it's like nothing to them. I now see why they were laughing at me, even though I was 16 for football, 82 for basketball, 162 for baseball. I was nuts. But now I get it. So I think it's good because I had that background growing up of being that type of guy and being into those things only and being closed off to the other. And then seeing what happens when you open your mind and go, oh, there's more of a world out there. And it's not just sports. There's also the arts. And it's not just, fighting. There's also the science. And and I think it's good to have a balance of things. And now I look back at my life like I don't regret it, but I was a partier. I had fun. And it's one of the reasons that why in my 30s, I ended up growing away from my friends, because I didn't go to college, university after school. I just kept partying and working really hard to make a lot of money. And I was a blue collar worker, 80 hours, 60 to 80 hours a week doing hard labor in the landscaping industry. And then blowing my money on the weekends, partying. Like that was what I did for double digit, 10, 15 years. But I started becoming interested in the sciences. I guess sciences is the wrong word, in just learning in general. And it was 100%, I call this YouTube University for me. Like, because I wasn't interested in school and because I was a partier, I would, watch these videos and go, oh, all these things I didn't learn. Like, I mean, this happens to a lot of us, but like, I just didn't learn even the stuff we were supposed to learn.
Yeah, maybe it could be that, certain people are just better visual learners. I know I definitely am, and the more hands-on I can be while I'm visually learning something, that's always most beneficial to me. And then, maybe if school was more visually stimulating for you, maybe it would have been different. I don't know. Or maybe not. Maybe you would have just been like, screw it. It's tough to say. But, as far as the latchkey thing, I had a similar thing. Like, my parents weren't out as late getting home because there's two of them versus one for you. But I still had my key to get home because the only thing I cared about was to get home and to watch the back-to-back of G.I. Joe and then Transformers.
I absolutely watched those as well.
Yeah.
After school cartoons.
Yeah, and then the bad thing is that so we would get the Chicago broadcast that would show Transformers and G.I. Joe, but sometimes there was a Cubs game, and I was like, damn it, no cartoons today. I'm like, well, these Cubs, I guess they're okay, but So, all right. So, mom was hardworking,
very hardworking. She was hard work and play hard. Like, when she was off, we had a lot of fun.
Yeah. My mom liked to play hard too, so it's all good. Yeah. And then tell me about your personal experience with religion and your mom, because your mom's pretty religious, right? Like, what denomination?
Well, yeah, very different situation. I was raised under Reform Judaism.
Okay.
Which basically is like Judaism light. It's American Judaism. In my home, we were told we are Jewish. And then we also had a menorah for Hanukkah and a Christmas tree for Christmas.
Okay.
So we literally did the cultural celebration of both, but called ourselves Jewish. But there was no religion in that to me. It was, we are Jewish. That's our thing. Here's the candles. Here's the Christmas tree. Some people believe in Jesus. We don't. It was that simple to me. And there was no more religion in my house. Like, that's what it was. We did celebrate holidays, but it was like fun. We celebrated Easter because the eggs and pastel colors.
Well, sure.
And chocolate. Yeah.
Why not? And chocolate, especially.
but then we also did the Jewish holidays, spinning dreidels. And like, I did both of those things. It was a combination for me. So I think on some levels, culturally, that did help me with being open to other things, because I wasn't forced into one little box. It was like, yeah, we're Jewish, but hey, I almost did like a Jewish, It was like, really, it was like a shoulder shrug. Who knows? Maybe we're Jewish, maybe we're not. Like, that was kind of how the attitude was.
Right.
But then, when I moved out of the house, I left the house at as soon as I could, just after high school. No problems. I just wanted to get out. I was a young guy, wanted to get out, party. I moved in with a friend. We got a place together. And while I was out doing sowing my oats, becoming young me, and I think, gravitating toward lack of belief and or atheism, and I'll get to that in a minute. While I was doing that, my mother found Jesus.
Where'd you find him
at? When I say that, I had been getting in a little legal trouble. And when I say legal trouble, I mean like a DUI, and then a driving while suspended. And then in her head, it was, what did I do? My son is getting into all this trouble. Where have I gone wrong?
Yeah.
And her friend said, have you tried Jesus? And it was that simple. Like, I'm not even joking. She went to church with her friend and felt this community and love, and them telling her, you've done nothing wrong. It's not you. It's in God's hands. And she felt better. And I didn't know this was going on. So that was a 10, 15-year period where we lived in different states. I moved to Pennsylvania. She lived in Jersey. And we saw each other a lot and talked a lot, but we weren't really intertwined in each other's lives. So we weren't talking about the religion stuff. I was becoming further atheist, anti-theist. She was becoming Christian, then evangelical Christian. And I didn't know how deep her beliefs were. Later, when we reconnected and kind of decided to talk about that stuff, we were already so far gone
Yeah.
That there was no patching it up because we hadn't gravitated with each other. She was going one way, I was going the other, and we didn't see it happening. And I was making jokes. This is when I found out how serious her belief was. I was joking with her, saying only a few years ago, really. I said, Mom, who, like Pence, genuinely believes there's a portal opening up over the White House because Biden is now in the White House that leads to hell. And I'm laughing because I'm like, how would a portal above the White House lead to hell if hell is in the ground? This is so silly. Can you believe he believes that? And she looked at me with this mean, scary face. And okay, maybe she doesn't think it's funny. I don't get it. And I walked away and I couldn't figure out. She came to me later and said, I don't like you joking about that stuff. Can you stop? And I said, yeah, I just thought you would at least think that was, I know you believe, but that thing. And she goes, Dale, you don't know what's real and you don't know what's not. And at that moment I went, holy, my mother genuinely believes there could be a portal to hell opening above the White House in the United States. It's hard to say without laughing, but like, it's also scary. So once I realized that, I went, in my head, I realized, how can I communicate with someone like that? And she said, listen, our views are so far apart. Let's just not talk about the religion. Let's not talk about those deep feelings. Let's just do surface stuff. And man, that tears a relationship apart.
Yeah, it does.
She thought we're fine because we're just going to smile and be happy. And what I was experiencing is I'm not talking about the things I care about with my mother, cares deeply about religion, and so do I in different ways. And we're not discussing the most important parts of our lives with each other. We're not being happy. We're faking happy. And she would say, we're better because we're not arguing. And I would say, but we're not talking. And she'd say, right, not arguing. That's good. And that was how we started to fall apart. And for her, became a surface level relationship. And for me, we were losing us every single day.
Yeah. So she's very much avoidant of well, because, you're her son, so she doesn't want to fracture that part. And I would add in her wisdom that she wanted to preserve the thing that she cared about the most, whether or not she admitted it was the most, because I would argue that by her saying that, in some ways, she's saying, I care about you enough that I don't want to drive a wedge between us with my own beliefs, even if she really didn't think about it that way.
Well, I agree. And I think that is what she was doing, but I think it was driving a bigger wedge.
I agree with that too, though. That's the flip side of the coin, right? Is that whenever you only talk about surface level stuff, eventually somebody's going to get frustrated. And it's usually, people like you and I who are like, well, I want to talk about this, and I feel like just avoiding it and trying to shove it under the rug for the sake of peace isn't bringing me peace.
Yeah, I feel like one of the reasons, and this is just humanity in general, that we go to wars over religion and politics is because we're always saying, don't talk about religion and politics.
Yeah.
And that's saying it on a simple level, but on some level, the more we're willing to discuss these important things that mean the most to us, religion and politics, the more we're able to understand each other. And then maybe war turns into tabletop discussion.
I'd be fine if it turned into tabletop tennis, where it's like, all right.
Well, we can even use BB guns.
We're all mad at each other. Whoever wins this game of ping pong, you're just the winner, and we can do this again in a year. It's like the Super Bowl.
For countries.
I mean, obviously that's why we have sports, right? We're like, hey, this war thing's kind of stupid, so we evolve, a little bit into games, which I think is I think it's a better approach. We should just do that. I mean, I feel like all the places that really like soccer, I feel like that's what they're doing.
Well, that's absolutely what it is. And I mentioned earlier about the sports thing when I was younger.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's like this aggression that we need to get out. The competition, aggression, dominance, winning.
Yeah.
And you can do it on a micro scale where you're not hurting people. Like that's the gladiators figured that shit out.
Right. The only problem is that now we've turned like politics into the sport. And so the people... So that's a whole other discussion, but and that's where we're at now. That people think that their team is winning, and I'm like, yeah, but you're hurting everybody else in the process. But
and it's not supposed to be a team thing. That's the problem. One of the greatest things, I should say greatest, one of the advantages that human beings have over other animals is our ability to work together. So when that becomes our downfall, where are we at?
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so and how many years ago was this, would you say?
Was what?
Around this time period
when we were
she
falling
starts
apart
to,
like that?
Yeah, when she gets a bit more Christian-y and then
7-8 years.
Okay. So
it wasn't within the decade.
Okay, within the decade. All right. So for the last 8 years, you've been walking on eggshells?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With someone who was my closest person my entire
Absolutely.
life, like, and not even
Yeah.
close. I was called a mama's boy my whole life, and I would turn around and say, "Yep, you're damn right. I'm
You're
proud to be a
damn
mama's boy."
right. Yeah.
Like, that's who I was. I was proud to be a mama's boy,
Yeah.
and then it went to, and I mean this sincerely, she would flinch when I would be in the house with her and turn to say something because she was scared that I was going to say something negative. And I don't know to defend myself, but, like, I would go to say, "Hey, Ma," and I was gonna say, "Hey, Mom, would you like to do dinner tonight?"
Yeah.
And I would see a snapback. And eventually I figured out it was that she was on edge, always nervous, thinking I was gonna wanna talk about religion, try to prove God wrong, because she knew what I did in my spare time, and that was in her head, and because she didn't wanna talk about it with me, it was, "Oh, no, he's gonna disprove. Oh, no, he's gonna." She even got to the point where she said, "Dale, I don't want you quoting the Bible anymore." And I said, "But that was a literally word for word from the Bible." And she said, I'm not okay with it. I know how you feel. I don't like you quoting the Bible." So now we're at a point where I can't talk about my feelings, and I
Yeah.
can't talk about the Bible, the actual words of the Bible, to my mother, who is an evangelical Christian who says she believes every word of the Bible, but she doesn't want me to talk about the Bible because she doesn't want to hear what's in the Bible.
Yeah.
My head wants to explode.
Yeah. A lot of cognitive dissonance going on there. Like, I don't understand. Like, I'm conflicted by what you're telling me because it seems.
I'm a fixer. You know those commercials with the guy trying to pull the nail out? Like, I'm a fixer. I want to. And it was hard for me because I should have realized years ago that I couldn't fix it. But it was like, I'm a secular activist. I see what's going on here.
Yeah.
If anyone can fix it, it's me.
And you're going against my nature at this point. It's just like, this is just how I am. So.
But it's my mother and the familiarity. And if anybody's going to get through to her, it's not me. Because even though I can do it to others,
right.
When she would hear stuff from the outside, she would go, "Oh, okay." And then if she heard it from me, it would be the opposite. I didn't realize until my mother passed away just after Christmas, almost about 4 months now. And I was her only caretaker on hospice for over 8 months.
Yeah.
Going through all of that, the level of, what's the word? Realizing how much we didn't know about each other. But also while she's fading mentally, so it's tough to know what she knew, what she didn't before that. She learned what atheism means, and she had a son who labeled himself. Sorry, I'm choking up a little bit here.
It's okay.
She had a son who labeled himself an atheist for double-digit years, like 15, 20 years. And shortly before she died, I found out that she thought atheism was akin to devil worship. So my relationship with her was being torn apart because she wouldn't talk to me, and she thought I was worshiping this devil thing.
Yeah.
And it's like so nuts to me because it's like, I could have worked on fixing that if I knew. And she went, "Oh, atheist." And I said, "Mom, what do you think the difference between an atheist and a non-believer is?" And she went, "Well, atheists hate God and non-believers just don't believe." I went, "Atheist means non-believer. Like, there's no difference." And that's why I'm so big on using the word to kill the stigma behind it. It's, I don't believe in a deity. That's all it means. When the last time I went to church with her, and I guess she was getting a lot from her friends too. Her friends were sitting a row behind us, and they were literally, she heard it. They whispered to each other and they went, "I think he's one of those atheists." Like, one of those atheists. And it's so dehumanizing. And she went, "They're not talking about you, are they?" Like, upset. And I went, "No, Mom, it's okay. I don't worry about it. Not a big deal." But you think about that stuff she had to deal with. Like her friends were her church friends. The
Mm-hmm.
only thing she did 2 days a week, she had church lunch on Wednesdays where the old ladies got together and did a group lunch and studied their Bible. I'm not just studied their Bible. They look Jimmy Baker books to gross people.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, I would see their study material.
Yeah.
And they're the people who, my mother would say, Dale, you're going to love Lee Strobel. And I would say, Lee Strobel hates me, Mom. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
he blocked me on Twitter.
You should. Yeah, Lee Strobel blocked me, Mom, because I pointed out that you can't homeschool a neurosurgeon when he said Ben Carson's going to teach us how to homeschool. And so, and then she goes, well, check out Dr. Frank Turek. And I went, doctor shouldn't even be the title. Frank is an idiot, and it's like,
yeah.
How can I communicate with someone who her idols, her intellectual idols, she went to the Ark Encounter, Ken Ham's Ark Encounter. That was a field trip for her school.
Also, they also
these
went
people
to Ark
are
Encounter.
Barely people to me, and she looks up to them. So there was just no patching it up. But just to harp on that again, she didn't even know what atheism meant. So knowledge is power. And I think if we talk more, that's my thing. I want to have these conversations like you're doing. We talk more, we get to know a little more about people. It's harder. We can have differences without hating each other. It's the lack of understanding that usually leads to the hatred.
Yeah, it's kind of funny whenever they bring up the hate thing, because I'm like, I don't really hate anyone. There might be one
individual.
Yeah, the number of people that I truly hate in the world is probably limited to my hand. Like it's, and I'm talking about major political people or celebrities, that have caused
Orange,
a lot.
You glad we didn't say their name?
Yeah, I am. Sorry, do I have something on me? Or no, my BB caught it, so that way I didn't get anything on my shirt or my bib. Sorry, I said that word. But yeah, there are people, that I'm just like, you're causing too much pain, which any pain's bad, but like you're causing a lot of pain, and I truly hate you. But no, I don't hate any Christians. I don't hate God. Don't, just hate's not a thing. And like you said, there is a misunderstanding of what an atheist is, and a lot of that is because of the evangelical church. I have traced it so far back to at least Billy Graham and how he would talk about atheist. He wasn't heavy on it. Not like Turek and some of these other people, like where they seem to be really obsessed with a certain subgroup of people. But
Billy Graham? Billy Graham came into play while my mother was on her deathbed.
Really?
I think it was Billy Graham. Is it Billy Graham or Jimmy Baker? I get this confused, but I think it was called the Billy Graham. Billy Graham rule. Do you know what that is?
Is that the one where a man wouldn't be around a woman by himself? Yeah.
I didn't. I hadn't heard of that until my mother was on her deathbed, and her pastor wasn't able to visit her. And everything in me, can you imagine? I'm like, this is why she believes you're here for this moment. And his wife, the pastor's wife, was out of town when she went on hospice. And he said, I can't come without her. And as the atheist, I was sitting there saying, my mother needs her fucking pastor. Like, are you kidding me? And he said, well, there's a Jimmy Baker. Or as a kid, that's confused again. But
yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Billy Graham rule.
Because it's Billy Graham rule, where you can't, a pastor, male pastor can't be around a woman without another woman there to oversee. And everything in me is like, okay, so I don't think are you going to rape my dying, I hate to be like, say like this, but like, really, you're going to sexually assault my dying mother.
Yeah, right.
Who's on her deathbed in front of me. Are you kidding me? She needs you. Get over here.
Yeah.
And he would not come over. Somebody filled in for her 3 or 4 days later, and he came over and it was fine. But like, everything in me thought, what if she passed in those 3 days? He wouldn't have visited her because some scummy pastor used to rape women, so he can't visit my mom?
No, I don't know that he ever raped women.
Well, I'm sorry. Scummy pastor was guy was scummy around women.
The intention of the rule is good.
Sorry, I should have said.
The intention of that rule is good spirited in the sense that it's like, listen, I never want to be accused of doing anything that because there have been other people that have accused, and Pence
I
was a
get it.
big fan of
Well,
this
the same
rule.
as a police officer as well. When a person in a position of power,
Yes.
I get that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I get it. And like at work, like one of the things I really like about my particular work office building where we're at now is that there's lots of windows. So there's lots of transparency. So it's, the transparency part is basically what I'm coming down to. I mean, that's a literal transparency, but in this case, we're talking about a transparency of like, oh, I don't want to give the impression that anything bad. But again, whenever when you're visiting someone on their deathbed, literal deathbed, that I feel like that's far fetched, but who knows?
I was like, I'll sit here and watch you. I'll watch.
Yeah. So, well, and then so tell me about the months leading up. So, because I know how this goes, we've gone through it. You knew for a while. Did she have what was the
lymphoma?
Okay.
Cancer.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say this because one of the hardest hitting moments, I may even say the hardest hitting moment between my mother and myself when it comes to the religion is when she thought she might have cancer and she was diagnosed, the light diagnosis before a full diagnosis. And I was waiting at her house for her to come home from her appointment to tell me if she was okay or not. And I literally waiting for her at her place. Like I remember there was a moment she opened the door and held a piece of paper up and she said, "Welp, I've got cancer. I was right." And I went, "Well, did they say anything else?" And she goes, "Not yet. We're still going to get a full diagnosis." And I said, "Well, we can still hope it's not terminal." And she looked at me and said, "Hope it's not? I'm praying it is." And everything in me dropped thinking, and keep in mind, she was 70 years old, 70.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go be with Jesus, so I want cancer so I can die because I can't kill myself. Everything in me was like, holy, like, it's hard. As an only child, that's hard to take because it's like,
Sure.
you want to leave me to go be with Jesus, but we could hang out for another 10 or 20 years, and then you could still go, even if it's real, still go be with Jesus. But I also found out there's an addition to this that she had an early term abortion when I was a baby because she was going through a divorce and thought it would be the best thing for our small little family because she couldn't afford to have another kid without a husband.
Yeah.
Then she was convinced 20-something years later when she became an evangelical Christian that she was a murderer and that there was a fetus, whatever. She said, "Dale, I know you don't agree with me, but your sister is waiting for me in heaven."
Oh, yeah.
And at that moment, I realized we were living in different realities and there's nothing I could do. My sister, I was an only child. Holy, like to hear that from her at 40-something years old, your sister. And then everything went nuts for me. Like, she wants to die. She thinks there's a place where this placenta is. I can't even waiting for her. Now it's a woman, a grown woman. I don't know what she thinks is there waiting for her. My sister, she's 45 now, 44. So everything in me just realized I just got to let this go. Like, she wants to die. This is her thing. And that was the lead into the 8 months of hospice.
So it starts off with, I've got a diagnosis. We got to find out more info. And then you find out that it is terminal.
Well,
or did
terminal,
did
but
it grow
treatable.
into that? Terminal but treatable. Yeah.
And she said, "I want zero treatment." And they were saying why it's non-invasive. And she said, "I'm okay with it."
Yeah.
And everything in me wanted to, but I couldn't speak for her, tell them she wants to die. She kept saying, "I'm not afraid to die." And he is about me to them. And I went, no. I'm not afraid. I don't want you to die. There's a difference between being afraid of death and wanting to die. She wants to die. I'm not afraid.
So how much do you think this just comes from being old, though? Did she have any other?
She, in my mind, her reasoning is because she lost most of the people she cared about. And her closest person was her brother. He died 2 years before that. Her parents were gone. She was her only family member she left as a sister who she was barely anything with anymore. They were kind of like broken ties. I was her only close person outside of church. It was church and me. So she was ready to go. And get what I'm saying? She was ready to go, but me.
Yeah.
And then at me, I'm not a kid. I'm 45 years old. I'm not going to say, stay here for me. So I respect, as much as I do not believe in the religion, as much as I dislike it, as much as I think that thought process of wanting to die in that moment is harmful, it's her choice. Like, I feel very big on that's her choice, and that's what she wants, so I'm going to support it. And for that 8 months, I never questioned her. At the very beginning, I did. Once she said, this is the way I'm doing it, I supported her.
Yeah. No, I like that. I recently had a coworker pass away, younger than me, actually, which is terrible. But got to visit him in the hospital before he died, and he had type 2 diabetic for a long time and had really struggled with the things that come along with type 2 diabetes, that appendages and things of that nature, get dangerous. He'd been on dialysis, and he said, "Yeah, I'm gonna wrap up some things, with my family." And he's like, "And then I'm gonna go off dialysis." And I was like, and he wasn't religious at all. And he's all about like, "Yep, not religious. I just want to have like a celebration of life. I don't want to have a funeral." And I said, "So how are you with this?" And he's like, "I'm just choosing radical acceptance," because he was like, he's like, "I'm not going to get any better. And this really isn't living like I used to live." And so I too appreciated that he was able, like your mom, to just be like, "Well, this is the closest thing we have to euthanasia, is just electing to, to stop treatment, so."
Another part of that's tough too is she had even looked into that, even as a Christian, looked into going over to Europe, Sweden, to do the euthanasia thing, but then decided she couldn't because it wasn't right. And it sucks because I'm very pro euthanasia. I mean, we do it for dogs because we care about them.
Right.
I mean, if there's no quality of life and we can make someone's pain stop, I don't understand why we won't do it.
Right.
To me, religion is really the core of why we won't do it.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, most people, doctors, hospitals won't admit that, but at the core, the religious belief is the reason we won't push that button, because, we talk about, I guess, Sam Harris's least amount of harm type of thing, and that's where I am with humanity. Like, if we can cause less harm, that's the right thing to do.
That is the right thing to do.
I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
So I would have, as much I loved her, and I had to watch her crumble. And she wanted the off switch, but she wasn't allowed to push it because of her religious beliefs. And that's why they become harmful, because she literally could have and wanted to do it, but she had to convince herself that her want was not okay because her beliefs were true. And if they're not true, which I really don't think they are, she should be able to stop the suffering,
Yes. Yeah.
What kind of God? I mean, what kind of God would want her to suffer? Are you kidding me?
I just had that thought. Yeah, it's like, if God were real, would he really want somebody to suffer just because of what? An arbitrary rule about life for someone whose life is not going to get any better? It doesn't make any sense.
Every day while taking care of her, like, she's praying for let his will be done. And she kept saying, "I'm going tonight. Tonight's my last night. I can tell it. He's told me." Like, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Over and over. And it's like, for someone like me who I mean, I love my mother to death, but who values verifiability, you were wrong, and then you were wrong, and then you were wrong. Let's stop guessing, and let's just try to enjoy what we have.
Exactly.
And it wasn't, there was something there.
Yeah.
I heard her speak. Now that she's gone, I can say anything. I heard her. Well, I was living with her during those 8 months.
Yeah.
And so there was a nurse, and I went into the other room, and I'd left her in a room talking to the nurse. And I was listening, and I heard her talking to the nurse and say, "I have questions now about the end of life, but I can't ask my pastor because he'll think I don't believe. And I can't ask Dale because he doesn't believe. So I just don't have anyone to ask." And everything in me was like, holy fuck, you have questions about your religion at the end of life and you can't ask your pastor? What the fuck good? Like, at that point, what good is he?
Yeah.
That's what he's supposed to be there for.
Yeah.
And she, and in my mind, her knowing that she can't be honest with him should tell you everything you need to know about the religion and the quote unquote family she has. She loved him more than anything, but she couldn't tell him her true feelings. That's what kind of love is that?
That is wild. But he might not have been able to be there anyway, because the wife thing. But yeah, that's what I really hate about religion. And I always feel like I have to give some sort of like disclaimer that, I mean, yes, not everybody in the faith believes this way, and that there are plenty of progressive Christians that are fine with euthanasia and all of the other social things that have been talked about over the last 4 or 5 decades. I'm really talking about the mind control aspect of the religion and the the people around it. But I have other reasons for problems with progressive Christians. But yeah, I do think that whenever it comes to that, you should be able to ask questions, even about, I mean, I feel kind of fortunate that the places that I was at in the last 20 years they were okay with asking questions. Like, that was fine, so, but they were kind of more, I wasn't really in a organized denomination. What was your mom's denomination?
Yeah, she flat out, they would have said, well, there was 2 churches because she left one after like a decade, but Fountain of Youth was the one, and then it was under Pentecostal slash.
Okay, I've never heard of the
Pentecostal
Fountain
Evangelical. I'm drunk, but Fountain of Youth. If you look that up, it'll kind of give you the
in Jersey.
Yeah, Fountain of Youth, and it's a huge one. They're the kind that they also have. If you look at them, they have a major tax evasion thing.
Okay, cool.
Where when she was there, a thing embezzlement. A thing happened while she was there, and what happened with her is his son's taking over because he was a bad guy, and now we don't trust him, so we trust the son. And it's like, holy crap! Like they were literally caught hiding money under floors there, and then the whole thing burnt down, and they think it was arson.
Oh, really?
Thought it might
how
be
interesting! Yeah,
all kinds of stuff. But they were the type that put on shows like Broadway type shows for a Christmas show. Like, very impressive, big time money.
Sure.
And they would bring in student athletes so they could be the best basketball school. They have like 5 guys in the NBA. It's not about the religion for them,
Yeah, it's more about let's make this as entertaining as possible. I'm trying to go to their. I think I found it. I don't know. I was just curious about the denomination, because sometimes denominations have different. But is this a mega church then, or just a big church?
I don't know, mega, just very big. I don't know. Where do you draw the line, mega?
That's a great question. I don't know. I think if you have the funds and real estate to be able to put in a walking track, then you're probably pretty close.
Okay,
I only know that because there's a church not far from me that I go and
then they're mega.
Walk out.
They have multiple walking tracks and ponds.
Yeah. Okay. I think that counts. So maybe
my mother was baptized in the pond.
Oh, nice. Well, good for her. So
in her 40s.
I was baptized in a very tiny little baptismal thing. But anyway, so, well, that's that's so sad that you can't ask questions about the end of life from your own pastor for fear that there's going to be any kind of, well, one you're giving a shit what somebody thinks. And I'm like, why would you care if you don't know the answers, and they might not know the answer? And I think that's the problem with elevating pastoral leadership to any kind of like, they must know everything, because they don't.
I had a sit down with this guy a few years ago, because my mother and I were having problems communicating before the cancer, and she had said to me, God, this stuff is just so ridiculous. She'd said to me, you want to know how because she thought I was possessed. This is important. I'll tell this little story.
Okay.
And I said to her, I said, Mom, you're acting like I'm possessed already. And she goes, Dale, I don't want to talk about this. And I said, well, I need to know whether you genuinely think there's something wrong with me or we just have a disconnect. And she said, ask my pastor. He knows better about that than me, blah, blah, blah. And I went, he knows better than you how you feel about me? And she goes, no, he can explain what I'm thinking better than I can. Well, first of all, that's not true and nobody can explain your thoughts better than you can. Maybe you're not good at expressing them, but they're not better than you. That's just not the way it works. And that was really sad to me. However, I tried a phone call with him and said, listen, this is what's happening. We're not communicating. I think it's the religion stuff because she seems to be saying it's spirit related or something like that. His exact words to me were, Dale, you're a really smart guy, and I'm not going to try to push this past you. You may not, it may not be, the devil or demons. It may just be some type of light possession. I went, oh, really? Some just type of light possession? That's it, Pastor? Well, then get it the fuck out. Like, I got angry. Like, then get it out of me. Like,
yeah.
So everything in me is like, that's not my reality. And he said, the other thing, Dale, and I know you might not like this, and him prefacing that, let me know.
Yeah.
Your mother is a woman, and women don't understand the way men speak.
Holy fuck.
And I stopped him. And this was the last time we spoke until her hospice. And I stopped him and I said, Pastor, listen, she loves you. And I believe you mean well, but what you're saying is so ridiculously misogynistic. And I know that my mother would probably agree with you and defend you. But from my position, it's disgusting. Like, I can't take it. Like, so I'm going to end this conversation because while my mother would probably say, well, I am a woman and we think differently because she's been taught that, I know that's not fucking true. Biologically, genetically, physiologically, you're wrong. Maybe your religion says that to treat women as inferior or chattel or whatever. Not me. I'm not a believer. Any disconnect my mother and I have has nothing to do with our sex or gender or anything like that. It's neurological. And he's like, yeah, see, I knew you wouldn't like it. And I was like, yeah. No shit.
Yeah.
I don't like it when you're talking trash about my mom and all women. But someone like him doesn't see that as misogynistic because in their brain, but God wants us to be this way. He's saying women are special, so we should treat their brains as specialer brains in a different way. And it's like, that's bigotry. That is bigotry by definition. I think he believed it. Like, he meant well, so it was tough.
I'll get to some, I'll piggyback off that here in a little while, but we'll finish your story. But I have similar things in a way. But all right, so you're getting close. So you're getting close to death. She's got some questions that she doesn't want to ask. I don't know. Let's fast forward to
a lot of issues
the last month.
Yeah, a lot of issues with family and friends. Just you really do see who cares in those moments.
Yeah.
And it was a mixture. But there were so many people who I thought would care, who would be the close people who just disappeared and just didn't give a shit, or were there for aesthetics at the very beginning and not at the end. And that was tough to watch because she couldn't witness. She wasn't really there, at the very end. And everything in me was saying, these people, to the end and just after, these believers, her close people are all believers. And they're doing this. Like, even if she's not conscious, God doesn't see what's going on. And this is from a non-believer. Why are all these people doing things that she would be not okay with if she was conscious? But they think God can see. Isn't she going to see when she gets to heaven? Isn't God going to tell her? So, like, from a non-believer's perspective, it was so odd that believers, quote unquote, were doing things that wouldn't be acceptable to her or a God when she was unable to be aware. That was a very hurtful one to me. Now, there were people who I could tell really believed. One of them came up to me 3 days before she passed. It was like her last visit, one of her last visits she had. And this woman said to me, how dare you? And she waved her finger in my face, like, an old lady finger wave. How dare you say she's going to die? God is going to pull a miracle and she'll be back in church next week and you will see. And she was like angry at me for saying, well, we're on our last few days and we're, she was no longer taking in liquids. For somebody to think there's going to be but this woman genuinely believed that. And I also know, with my mother half conscious there, the worst thing you can do is say, live, you got something to live for, fight.
Yeah.
That, anybody who knows anything about our neurology will tell you that's a horrible thing to do to a dying patient, to tell them to fight when you know they're dying. And their religion tells them that no, there's good. So I walked this woman out to the front of my mother's house, and I said, "Listen, I know you care, and I really do trust. I really appreciate it. I wasn't trying to be rude. I just, I hope there's a miracle too. Okay?" And she goes, "Not hope. You'll see." Like, she was angry. I was trying to be nice. You'll see. You'll see. Everything. A few weeks later at the funeral, there was no contrition, and everything in me
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be like, "Are you?" Are you not a little upset about the fact that you waved your finger in my face and told me I was an idiot?
See,
Because she did die.
what I know about the Bible, I would have probably said, if you're prophesying that my mother is going to be healed, and if she dies, that means you're a false prophet and that you're going to hell. That's what I would have said.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, I tried to maintain my couth amongst her friends and
right.
family,
I know
knowing there was a funeral coming up.
It's easier for me to, one, not be part of the situation and say, like, oh, yeah, that's what I would have said. Now, I probably would say it now, honestly, the way I feel about after an experience this year. Well, and I'll talk about it on episode 29, I talk about how that in January, my aunt died, and I went to go visit, and I had this whole discussion with the kids and the family, like, hey, there's going to be like a lot of, because this is down in Wichita, Kansas, which is pretty pro-life home in Kansas. I mean, there was a lot of like pro-life demonstrations and stuff like that, like 15 years ago, and it's also the home of BTK, the serial killer. So make of that what you will. But I just told them, I'm like, listen, there's going to be a lot of God talk. They were very religious. We're at a Southern Baptist church. I know exactly what to expect. I said, just find a happy place, like go somewhere mentally, it's okay to bow your head when everybody else bows their head, you guys are free to think whatever you want, but we're not going to ruffle any feathers here. So I know what it's like to be in that situation. For me, what happened is that, like 2 weeks after she passed, I thought everything went fine. We go down there, hang out, see family. They had us come back and said, hey, after the graveside service. So there was literally like 3 different calls to salvation, invitations, if you will, is what they call them. There are 3 different periods of that during the whole church service, or the funeral service, and then there's the graveside service, and then right before we had lunch with like family and select friends, mostly family though, there was another big long speech. And about the 3rd time, I was like, I'm starting to think this is pointed toward me. But I thought I poo-pooed that, and I said, that's probably not true. I'm probably just overthinking it, because I realize that a lot of very evangelical churches, like, they use any opportunity to be like, that moment, like, and especially whenever it's emotionally charged, right? I mean, that's the perfect priming of the pump. Well, 2 weeks after I got home, I'm on my treadmill, I'm working out at home, and I get a text from my uncle. No words with it, just a video, and I can see from the poster image that it's my aunt on her deathbed. And I'm like, okay. And so I hit play, and it starts off great, and I think, oh, well, this is I just wanted to let you know that I love you, I enjoyed being part of your life, that kind of shit. That's what I was expecting. Mm-hmm. Instead, I got you need to find your way back to Jesus, because it's right. And oh my gosh, I had an instant change of heart about that entire weekend, because I'm just like, oh my gosh, you guys, that whole thing, like you used that whole entire funeral as a way to direct it toward people who don't believe the same way you do, because you're absolutely convinced that I'm wrong, and you're right. And I was so hurt by that, it was brutal. And I now don't talk to any of those family members at all, because there were other things I noticed while I was there that I was like, oh, I think I'm sensing a little Christian nationalism in this church more than I would have. I think it's crept in, and now it's taken root, and it wasn't wasn't blatant, but it was there. And I was like, oh fuck. They're all lost to this.
One of
So,
my
but it's amazing how disrespectful it was to the living,
Mm.
whenever somebody passes and you don't share those beliefs. And I'm like, well, you've got no way to prove it. So whatever.
one of my mother's friends, a few days after the funeral, I received a card in the mail saying, "We're so sorry for your loss. We're here for you if you need us.
Yeah.
Your
Oh, that's
mother
nice.
wanted your mother wanted nothing more than for you to come to Christ, and we're here to make sure that happens." Everything in me went,
Wait a minute. Did they say we're here to make that happen?
I don't want to tell you. I'm pretty sure those aren't the exact words, but it was basically like, "We're here when you're ready
Oh,
to
okay.
come to
Yeah, yeah.
Christ,
Mm-hmm.
not make that happen." It was like they
Yeah.
were saying, "We're gonna
Oh, sure.
do that
Yeah.
for her." She never pushed her views on me. She wouldn't even talk to me about them. So for them to say she told us to convert you,
Doesn't add
it,
up.
no
Yeah.
way, no way. They were using that moment of me feeling weak and hurt to say maybe we can get him. And I'm not even joking. They said this. This is a part that gets me so much too, because it's a compliment, it's a backhanded compliment. "Dale, you are so smart and you know so much. If you just believed in the right thing, you could help us." Like, it's like, holy fuck, don't you understand what you're saying?
Yeah.
And even the pastor said to me, he goes, "Dale, one of the reasons that you may not really believe what your mother and I do is you just have so much knowledge in that head that you're not really leaving room for God."
Mm-hmm.
And I that line, yep. I'm
Yeah.
not full of knowledge though, because anything else anybody wants to teach me, something verifiable, logic, reason, the scientific method, there's
Yeah.
room for that in there.
Absolutely.
Why do you think there's too much knowledge? So I can't fit your God in there. That's not, I know they don't know anything about neurology or physics or chemistry. The neurology of the brain, chemistry of the brain is nothing to them. However, that's not how the fuck it works. You don't get full of knowledge, so you can't put something else in.
Yeah.
But it was like, it's almost like a phrase that makes them feel good. "Oh, you're full of
Well, yeah.
knowledge, so you don't have room for Jesus."
No, there's a lot of that. I mean, there's this thought in your head, especially if you're evangelical, that you're supposed to go out and reach everybody, right? Which I, again, raised Southern Baptist, so like first part of my believing life, Southern Baptist. Last part, I kind of really started walking away from, I guess I was deconstructing before I even had an idea of what that was,
That was
But I mean, just meaning that I was questioning some things of the how I was raised. And I'm like, well, I still have the God thing, but there are some other things. I'm like, I don't understand the gay people thing. Like, why are we mad at them? What's wrong with them? I mean, I'm like, well, I have gay people in my life, and they seem to be all right people. I don't have a problem. I mean, just like I have three people in my life, and they seem to be all right people, and then there are also people that are not. I mean, they're just people. I mean, what is this? Why is this the thing? Why do I care? Things like that.
it's not
Things about,
morality related.
yeah, it's not morality related at all. It's all about like, this is what my particular belief system and the subset within that, with like denominations and all the way down to the church, this is how we believe, and that means that I have to like really keep pushing uh, my evangelical faith, because it's an opportunity. Death is an opportunity to maybe talk about things like that. So anyway, how long was she on hospice?
8 months.
So the whole time. So you started off pretty
Yeah,
much.
when I said she had cancer for about almost 2 years.
Okay.
The hospice was about 8 months. I
Okay.
used that earlier.
Yeah. So basically, whenever it was like, well, all of last year. I mean, for the most part. I mean,
Yeah.
most of it.
Yeah. And then the day after Christmas, she passed, because I was looking at the clock thinking it was going to be on Christmas. That was my Christmas this year. Spent with my mother taking her last few breaths.
Yeah.
So that was tough. But
Yeah.
next Christmas, I just thought about that. Next Christmas is going to be rough.
Yeah. So there's this thing that I went through with Mom called the year of firsts, and I didn't understand it until somebody told me. And then after I went through a year, I was like, oh, I get it. So it's the first birthday without them in your life, the first Christmas, first Easter, first Independence Day, whatever, right? All these milestones that you probably would have shared with that person, now you got to do it differently. And I had I again, I was a mama's boy, so it was so rough for me. I got deeply depressed, had to go to therapy. And I only did that.
We're not doing video right now, so just so everyone knows, I'm not crying. I am not crying at all.
He's not crying. He's not bawling like an inconsolable little baby. That's right. Why did you go get the second big towel to catch all your tears? Anyway, but yeah, you go through this year first, and like for me, like once I hit the 1 year, it was almost, don't get excited, almost spiritual about how once I hit the 1 year that I realized that I'm like, okay, I've went through a cycle, and like I felt instantly different on the anniversary. It was just different for me. I'm like, okay, I've made it through that cycle because life is so boring. It just repeats itself year after year. And I knew that, well, this is just how it is, and one of the other things that I've thought about is, and maybe you've thought about this too, is about how our parents dealt with their parents' death, and and like dealing with that, because my mom would always write my mom was big on writing dates and stuff on a calendar, so that way she could just easily glance at it. Obviously before you relied on your phone to do that. And she oh shit, I lost my train of thought, because that happens because I'm getting but just that it was a big deal for her, and she would write her parents' death on there. And at the time I thought, boy, that's kind of weird,
Yeah,
like, oh well, grandpa would have been 97 today, and I'm like, yeah, grandpa died at like 80. But I get it now. It's just one of those things that it's always going to be in the back of your mind, about you had parents and you loved them,
I'll share
caregivers,
something,
whatever. But yeah, go ahead.
Something I'm very proud of. Her mother, who I was very close with, my mother's mother. My mother was raised Jewish, and I guess there wasn't a lot of religion in her family. It was kind of like light religion. I got very close with my grandmother toward the end of her life because we lived in the same area for the first time.
Yeah.
And I would go on Sundays mornings. I would drive over to her house, and she would make me breakfast while I did her gardening. Like it was like kind of a thing. And I bonded with my grandmother toward the end of her life. Sunday mornings were our thing. And I'll never forget, one day we're sitting there having breakfast after I was working in her yard and talking, and she said, "I want to tell you something, but I want you to promise you will never tell your mother." I said, "Okay." She said, "All that God stuff, I'm with you. Who knows?" And that was my grandmother, who, as far as my mother knew, was a believer. But so I'm saying this as it was cute for me and fun to have that. But then later in my life, when atheism came up and my mother would look at me, and I'm not joking, and say, "Your grandmother would be so ashamed." And I'm like, if only she knew how good of a son and grandson I'm being right now by not telling her that she's wrong. And she's using my grandmother against me because my grandmother lied to her.
Yeah.
And that just makes me think about, why do we all have to put on this facade for each other? It's so sad. If there was less of that facade, it gets better and better. And when you do it without, being open, it gets worse and worse.
I agree. I totally agree. And I was listening to.
Oh wait, one last thing. She's gone now, and I did it. I just realized I did it. I kept the secret until she died. I'm so proud of me. And that's for the atheist, anti-theist who's always trying to hurt everybody. I didn't do it to my mother, and I had that for my grandmother. So, you know what I'm saying? On some level, that makes me feel like I put people first. I care deeply about this stuff, but I'm not going to hurt someone if it's not going to help me. I mean, or help others.
Well, I honor you, for sticking to your word. And, there was, I'd heard on a podcast, but then read it also that it's statistically that I think it's 47% of Jews are atheists. So, which to me, I'm like, this just means it came full circle. Like they, we started off highly religious, and now over time they're like, that's all a bunch. Like your grandma said, yes, I'm with you.
Well,
It's a
most
bunch
of my
crap.
family was that type of Jewish. Like they called themselves Jewish. They celebrated the holidays, and then if you asked them about God, they would go,
yeah,
sure, there's a God."
One of the things that I like about religion, whenever it comes to death, is the ritual that goes along with it. I think that rituals can be really helpful because they can help us proceed with things. Like if you're working out, well, you need discipline. You need a ritual to like do it on a regular basis, or else you're not going to succeed. If you're getting through school, you need a ritual to get your ass out of bed. If you're working, you need a ritual to have your routines. And whenever it comes to dying, I think ritual is important because it can help close the door on a chapter or a book, to a life, not for the person that died, obviously, but for everyone else, So some of the things that I really appreciate is things like are things like a graveside service, even if it was just, we're just going to be quiet for a second, and just be still in the fact that a human that we cared about has died, right? I like that. I just I hate all the other crap that tends to go along with it. Like it's another selling opportunity. It's another advertisement for the faith.
I've said I used to be a big sports fan growing up, and there's a lot of that ritual with the sports stuff, and I think that was part of. I lost that when I gave up the sports stuff because when you go and just talk about like ritual culture, when you go outside and you're wearing a shirt and somebody else is wearing that shirt, and you probably watched the same game last night, and you probably know that 10 years ago you saw the same big play happen, so you have a memory that you share. There's something there. It's something bonding, and that same thing happened with a Christian and a cross. So to me, I lost that when I gave up the sports as well, and I didn't have a religion. You know what I mean? That was part of my ritual, connecting cultural, norms that I share with others.
Yeah. Although my coworker that I went to, it was the first celebration, like true celebration of life that I've heard things called a celebration of life, but every time I went to those, they were actually funerals. But this, like, he got cremated, and then they were just like, okay, we're all going to meet at this place. And it's just a venue, basically. It's a it's a small /bar /record, not record, concert venue. And so I go to this and I'm like, I don't know what to expect, but they told us to wear t-shirts. So I'm like, we're already off to a good start. So this is great. So I go and I walk in and I'm instantly just kind of blown away by the differences between a secular celebration of life and a religious funeral masquerading as a celebration of life, or what, I probably said that backwards, but because everybody's there, they're wearing t-shirts, there's drinks, there's food, there's some music playing that doesn't suck and it's not sad, there's people out back smoking. There is this guy identified with the asexual community. So there was like an asexual flag right there with some pictures and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is a different ritual for me, and I really fucking like it. This is great, And so here I am with some of my other coworkers, and we're all sharing stories, and then we kind of mingle and we mix a little bit. And then, they had some speakers and they had the slideshow going, and I'm like, this is a great ritual, So I don't know, maybe, the good thing is you can kind of design whatever you want to in life. That, it doesn't always have to be a funeral, but like maybe for us non-believers, um, putting up something like creating ways to add ritual to that end moment in life, so that way there's a template. Because I don't know, when my mom died, none of us knew what to do, because she kind of like was the glue to everything. And so maybe you felt the same way, like, oh man, but you saw it coming. For me, it was different. I didn't see it coming. Like, it was
I
very,
had a warning.
yeah.
But I do think there's something to that with just in any phase of life, replacing those things that we would lose from a religion. Like I was saying with sports at the beginning,
Yeah.
and you're talking about, the end of life thing. That's one of the things that people who are deep into a religion or contemplating coming out of one say, well, what will I do with this? What will I do with that? And I don't think there's anything that a religion provides that can't be provided secularly outside of the religion. There are things they do provide which aren't easy to find outside of, but they would be if we had focused on those areas the way we focused on them religiously for so long.
Right, exactly.
Oh, well, there's no place to do this. But we could make one. And there wouldn't have to be a deity. There wouldn't need to be magic. We can still do all of these things.
Yeah.
When I hear someone talking about the good parts of their religion and even Christianity, it's about love. It's about caring about others. It's about sharing. That's fucking humanism. You just add magic and shit. Like, so honestly, I mean, it sounds like fucked up, but like the best parts of Christianity are humanism.
That's true. Yeah.
So why do we need all those other things? Unless it's true, which it's not. Why do we need all of the mysticism and magic and demons and devils and witches? We have humanity. To me, that's all we need.
Yeah. And I would argue that a lot of times with religion, you lose humanity. It gets lost, and you're like, what are we doing?
My mother was never someone who I would think of as homophobic or xenophobic. Xenophobic happened much more with her. And then later in life, when the religiosity creeped in, she would say things like, and this is an exact phrase, "Oof, I really don't like those Muslims." And I said, Mom, they're Hindu. And she said, what's the difference? And then everything in me went, they're so drastically different.
Yeah.
She sees brown and a religion she doesn't know, so she hates them. And then when I say they're not them, she says, I still hate them. So she doesn't even know why she doesn't like them.
Right. Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah, that is scary. And then whenever people say, like, for you, why are you an anti-theist? You're like, this is why, because I don't see the benefits. I really like what you said, though. Like, why not take the best parts of that and recognize it as humanism and do away with the magic? Because, I mean, let's face it, if you believe that someone died and rose again 3 days later, that's pretty fucking magical.
Well, and a lot of the parts, a lot of the things in humanism, they can come from different areas. Mine comes from my scientific understanding. Like, I feel like I didn't have a great background in that. And then when I started to learn, you learn a little bit about genetics, and then it would just be fucking silly to have a problem with someone because their skin is a little darker. Like their ancestors grew up further or closer to the equator, so I have beef with them. That makes me look like an idiot. It's not just that it's rude. It's idiotic.
Yeah.
But the same with homophobia. Like, if I know that it's genetic, that whether someone feels a certain way or craves a certain thing, if I know that those things are mostly genetic and or environmental, I don't look at that person and go, oh, there's a demon or a devil or sciences really do make it easier to be a decent person if you want to be. They don't make you a better person. Like, people say knowledge is power, and it does. You're not a better person because you're more knowledgeable. But if you want to be a better person, there are a lot of people who do harm because they don't know what they're doing. So the more you learn, the better you can be, a better or worse person if you choose. But you have the ability. When you don't have that education, you don't know what your options are. So you might be doing something because you just don't know the other options.
What I hate about religion, particularly whenever it comes to this topic, is that just like with my aunt and then, your mom's friends sending stuff after the event, there's no empathy there for
By the way, that was
I feel.
Almost 4 months ago. I have not heard from them since.
Oh, really?
So they didn't really try.
Well, they're waiting on God.
When I'm ready.
Yeah. but yeah, there's just no empathy for the other person. There's no empathy for you, for like, oh, he doesn't believe that. How can I support him in a way that doesn't, that I can still show what I think is true about my faith without being overbearing, right? There's nothing good about a video from beyond the grave from your aunt who I thought she was like the nicest person in the world. And even my wife would say the same thing and be like, she is so nice,
Well, and what you got right there in that message is the epitome of the Steven Weinberg quote. With or without religion, you would have good people who do good things and evil people who do evil things.
Yes.
But to get a good person to do evil things, that takes religion.
Takes religion. Yeah.
Because they think they're doing something good. And she thought she was trying to save your soul.
Right.
But she was doing something nasty.
Yeah. Yeah.
She just didn't know it.
I mean, I would argue that I had to call some cousins and get like the skinny. I'm like, I don't understand what's going on here. And I got a hold, but I recognized, or I thought I recognized, I had to call two cousins to get to who the voice was. I heard one of the cousins on there. And so I finally got in touch with the one who was on there who took the video. And I was like, so was this like a dying wish thing? And she's like, yeah, she had expressly asked that we record this and send it to you. And then I was like, you know what? I'm okay with that. Dying person gets to do, they get to have their wishes and, and I'm okay with that. And that's fine. So even if you felt like you still needed to send that card, you still need to text that video clip, I can hold space for like, okay, this is a last person's,
I get what you're saying.
Dying wish
type thing.
Yeah. So I'm cool with that because I'd probably want something, but there's so much more wrapped up in that, it's like, oh, well, now you realize that this is how other people have been thinking about you for a very long time and that they've been having discussions and I've given it no thought whatsoever. And so then you just realize that, you're just a big target, and that I didn't care for. So it's hard. It's hard to wrestle with this now as an unbeliever, and to be really like, why can't you respect my beliefs too? Or, I don't, my conclusion. Why can't you respect my conclusion, which is different than your spiritual belief? And just be cool about it in this time. And it's heartbreaking. It really is. Like I can respect that it was a last wish, but at the same time, please understand that it did hurt me.
Well, it's weird. It's like the religion is removing the humanity.
Yeah,
we said that earlier. That's that right there is the religion removing the humanity, because without that religious belief, that situation couldn't happen. There's nothing else that gets in the way there.
Yeah,
it's just I care about you, I like you, I love you, I'll miss you. Other than that, I need you to remember this so things work out for you. That doesn't come anywhere but religion.
Mm-hmm. How you been since then?
I've been okay.
Not everybody else. How have you been?
I've been okay, but I also I don't have a lot people. I mean, I am, as you said at the very beginning. Wow, this is a raw moment. I have a lot of friends.
I like raw. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a lot. I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of people who like me.
Okay.
On social media.
Good. Yeah.
It's difficult for people from the outside to see that that's not real friendship all the time. That because 5,000 people like your post, that doesn't mean you have a support system.
Right.
And I don't really have much of a support system, but I do have that. And I'm not saying that's nothing, because I acknowledge that, like, on some level, a lot of those people do care. But it's not the same as having your close people. And while I was doing this atheism, as you say, anti-theism thing over the last decade, 15 years, I was losing my friends and family. And my mother was kind of because she was my mom, she wasn't going to go anywhere, even though things got bad with us. And when she was gone, now 4 months,
Yeah.
everybody else already was.
Yeah.
So I have a few close people, and I value them greatly. I'll tell you in a second what joke. I was talking to one last night who I call ELA, and that stands for Enoch's Little Angel, because we first bonded over watching Ancient Aliens and joking
Uh,
about Enoch being in heaven, and
yeah.
so I started calling her ELA, as Enoch's Little Angel, because she was my little
Mm-hmm.
angel. Anyway, we were
Mm-hmm.
talking about it last night, and the two of us, I have 2 or 3 people like that who I can go to who know this version of me and knew the other version of me. But outside of that, it's tough because I'm an anti-theist. I'm a vocal anti-theist.
Yeah.
People who are religious, 98% aren't going to get it. People who value religion, 75% of them aren't going to get it. And we grew up in these societies where religion is a positive, even if you don't believe. Don't take it away from them. Don't say it's bad. So my anti-theism has knocked a lot of people away. And because I grew up being that party person, there aren't a lot of science-driven, sociology, morality-driven people in my circles that fell apart.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm developing new circles of friends. When you say, "Do I have people?"
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I am developing these new circles. I've met one person in real life, quote unquote, off of
Mm-hmm.
online, but I plan to do more. And I say this like very openly, like they have those conferences, atheist type conferences, BahaCon coming up, those type things.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to one of those soon, because those people, and when I name drop, but like the people who do these shows, secular activists, are now going to be my people because they get me, and there isn't really. It's almost like you have to understand why I have a problem with organized religion to be my friend. And I know it's tough because so many people. There are people who are so close to me who just never could get it. But they're also the people who 10 years ago told me I was crazy for thinking Christian nationalism was on the rise. And I don't see how they can, after Project 2025 and the Trump thing and abortion and the LGBTQ community and the imaginary transphobia shit name, I don't see how they can now say and strike and strike and strike. I don't know how now they can say that Paula White in the White House and all this shit is
Yeah.
that there's
Yeah.
no religion involved in what's happening. It's
Yeah. There's
clearly being used against us.
very,
And
very
and and,
clearly.
and so I'm sorry, so as an angry rant, but like I lost people because of that. And part of me thinks, I wonder if any of them are ever thinking, maybe Dale was right,
Is right.
And I'm
I
sure
know.
there are a few, but they just don't have that, just too proud to come back.
Yeah.
And I hope some of them do come back because they were my lifelong friends. But over the last 10 years, I lost 98% of my lifelong friends and family.
Yeah. I I had a friend who was a Christian. See, here's the thing though. I have a hard time saying like they were friends because now I question the idea of what maybe he was a friend for a time. Maybe I'm okay with that, I guess. But I also have friends that have stuck with me regardless of how I believe. And those are true friends. Those are actual real friends. Those are friends I'll take a bullet for, prefer not to, but but if I had to, I would. And I mean that with all sincerity. And there was one friend in particular that leaned a little bit more Calvinist, and we did not have a very good ending. I was hoping that we could make it work, But I have thought about that lately. I have thought, from all the stuff that he was into politically, he wasn't libertarian, but he had libertarian leanings in some areas, which I at that time, uh, I thought that was some of his ideas were reasonable as far as like the libertarian. I don't hold to any political party because I think it's hard to like wrap everything up into one, But like I pull in from different ones, and I'm like, well, I like this and I like that. But I do wonder, I'm like, so what do you think now? Like, you were so worried about all of these things, and now it's the party that you more align with than not that's in power, and they're doing all the things that you were worried would happen from the other side.
Yeah.
Do you ever think about me? Do you ever think maybe he was a little right on some things? You know, I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever hear from him again,
Well,
and it kills me because we had a great friendship.
and I had
I
someone
thought we
like
did.
that who I was very, again, very, very close with, like one of my lifelong top 5 friends. Um, and he was one of the last to go by the wayside because of our bond.
Yeah.
But he was one that would. It's like he would agree with me on social issues to an extent, but then, well, I'm just going to use the language. I don't care. But then, why can't I call someone a fag if I'm just joking? And it was like, well, you don't understand why. And I would try to explain that. And when he's actually from Florida. When the Ron DeSantis "Don't Say Gay" thing happened, he was on
Yeah.
DeSantis' side with that, and everything in me was like, he didn't, because he's like, "It's a word. Why don't you get it? We used to call each other gay 24/7. Now you're stopped." I'm like, "Yeah, I grew up, and I realized that even though I didn't want to be homophobic, I was saying that because I was thinking it was derogatory. I wouldn't go, 'Hey, you homo,' if you were doing something negative, if I thought homo meant positive." So it's like, it culturally dragged into us as, we're not talking about gay, we're just saying you're an idiot. Yeah, but you're using the word to describe idiot as the same as you would to describe gay. That's the fucking problem.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I would say, like, dude, you can do that whenever you want with your friends and stuff, but when you're talking to me, we're not doing that back and forth anymore. And he wasn't okay with that. And I went, all right, well, we can't be friends. Like, if you're gonna,
Right.
if you're saying, dude, I don't mean you're a faggot when I call you a faggot. Okay, but if you're going to speak like that, regardless of whether I know what you mean or not, we're not friends. I
Yeah.
no longer associate with people who speak like that. And that was it for us. Linguistics, you know? But it's not just linguistics, because, as I explained, there's some reason you're using that word, or you would call me a potato.
That's a good point. Have you are you considering, or are you doing any kind of grieving therapy?
I do have a therapist,
Okay.
paid therapist,
Okay.
who, and yeah, I'll say one thing on that too. People really should be afforded therapy,
Oh yeah.
because it's so expensive,
Yeah.
and people just don't have the money. And I honestly don't have the money, but I do what I can.
Right.
Um,
Well, I
I
mean, there are some things you just need to pay for
well, correct. That's how I'm viewing it.
because I need to do it now. You know what I mean?
That's how I'm
And
viewing it now.
yeah.
It's not like I can't do it at all. But in my head, I'm going, you know what? This right now is more important than, I'm just making something, than eating lobster. If I'm going to eat lobster or
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I've gone with my head now, because I've seen how valuable it is. And my therapist, hi, Jenna. My therapist is fantastic. I guess I'll squeeze one more thing in. She, a few years ago, when my mother and I were falling apart, I said, "Mom, uh, this is insane. Like, we can't talk." And I asked about going to therapy. And she said, "We're not a couple." And I went, "Mom, I mean, not think about, And I'm
There's
like,
a
"Mom, it's counseling for anyone who can't get along, parents." So she went, "Fine, I'll try it." She agreed to try it. Couple times solo, couple times together. She told my therapist, "I don't have a problem. He has the problem. He can keep coming to see you. You can help him so he can speak to me." Like, get what I'm saying? Like, it's like, that's how she
yeah.
viewed therapy.
Yeah.
No, you
Mhm.
fix the one who's broken and then we're good. And
Yeah.
it's so anyway, so for over 2 years, she's been my personal therapist.
Okay.
But she got the story before she became my therapist, get what I'm saying? From my
Mhm.
mother. So
Yeah.
she had all of that background. So she's the perfect person for it. And she's been, I don't believe in blessings, but she's been the closest thing to a blessing. Like, she
Yeah.
really has been wonderful, and she's there when I need her.
Yeah.
So that's your answer to that.
Yeah.
She is. There are 2 people right now who I tell everything to. She's one.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think if you're really close to someone, you should probably I think if anyone's listening to this, regardless if you're a believer or not, it is it's very difficult to lose someone that you care so much about. Like you and I both discussed, we were both mama's boys. Like, you go home, you're gonna talk. Like they're gonna be like probably the first person you call about something,
Yeah, and that's the other thing. We shared so many memories together. I'm
mhm.
realizing there's nobody else on the other side of that memory now.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's in a lot of ways how we keep them alive is the memory, and sharing those memories with other people, with a funny story sometimes, like there'll be something that comes up and you'll be like, and it'll be probably a while, but there'll be
I'll do a
something
funny
funny
wait,
that comes
real
up,
I'll do a quick
and
funny
you'll,
one right now. 5
okay,
second
go
funny
ahead.
one. As she's losing it, but not gone yet, the first time she, I would say, didn't recognize me,
Yeah.
I was talking to her, and people will hear this, will love this, people who know me. And she looked at me, and she looked me in the face, and she said, "I just want you to know that Dale," now keep in mind she's talking to me. She said, "Dale is a little rough, but he means well. I just want you to trust me. He means well. He might be a little rough. He might scare you a little, but he is a well-meaning man." And I went, "Oh, I know he is. I trust me.
Yeah.
I know he is." And I
That's
walked
very
away.
nice.
And I
Yeah.
was like laughing and crying because she was saying, she was complimenting me, but saying,
Absolutely.
but also saying, he's a little rough." Like,
Hmm.
so it was so hilariously her. She was
Yeah.
telling somebody because she does it was letting me know she thinks he means well, but
Yeah. No, I like that because she was giving you a compliment. And even saying that he's rough is a compliment because it's giving a forewarning to anyone to be like, listen, don't judge him on that because that's
oh,
just
I
his
get what
personality style. Yeah. So
she meant
I
very
think
well,
it's a
which is
great
why I
thing.
smiled. Well, I like it.
I had a moment yesterday, so I've been off all week, and I decided to hit some areas around the house that have been very neglected. One of them is my dungeon basement, which is multi-purpose. I'm in my unfinished office, as you can see, but no one else can. That needed a little cleaning, but then there's also like just general clutter area. And so I was going through that and some of the stuff, I mean, my mom died like what, 7, 8 years ago. And I'm still going through stuff. I mean, dad only died, like a year and a half ago. So, but some things that I inherited were, mom was on top of like greeting cards, like nobody's business, right? Like I told you the calendar thing and the dates, and she had all these like cards. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, well, I'm not a big card giver, but I mean, if I don't have to buy them, they're right here. So I'm going through these cards, and then there were some of them that are pretty generic about, just like happy, birthday, congrats on your wedding. But then there were plenty of them that were, had some Christian theme ones, and I'm chucking those left and right. And I came across, well, there were two things that happened, as far as like the memory that goes, is that um, my mom was sick the last couple of months leading up to her death, and I wasn't. But her death was sudden. But I found in one of the cards, wasn't one. It wasn't blank. It was one that she had written a thank you to my dad for taking care of her. Dad had dated it like September, and she died in October. And I was like, "Oh, I'm
Wow.
gonna stick this over in this pile. That's my keep pile, right?" And then also, we recently bought a new car, and by new I mean used. But it's an EV. It's a Leaf. I got it for next to nothing. It's a steal, and I got it at just the right time too. Um, and so this is a new like experience for us. So, having an electric vehicle in the mix is different and weird, and the range is sucky, but it's still also really fun to drive. And my dad was kind of a car guy, so, and I just texted my wife yesterday, and I was like, man, I've had this thought several times recently. Since we got the car last Saturday, I said I've had this thought of like I should call dad and tell him about the car. You know, and then you're like, but I know I can't do that. but I've had that thought of like, I wish I could share, this thing. And she was just like, yeah, he would have loved to talk about this. And I'm like, I know, right? Like he would have, he's kind of struggled with technology, but he was not afraid of it. And, to mix cars and stuff. Oh, I would have loved to show him this car. I would have loved to have him drive it. He would have said, well, this is like a go-kart on steroids and it sure is fun. That's what he would have said. Like, I just know. And I really, I think of these things that I can't really talk about now, you
My
just have to.
mother was a fan of someone who followed me on social media after
Oh,
she
yeah.
passed. And it was so, everything in me went, that would have been so amazing to share with her, because she couldn't understand. I couldn't share my social media stuff with her, but I can say
Yeah.
this person
Yeah.
likes me, and that can make
Yeah.
her smile. And
Yeah.
it sucks because I got it recently, and I was like, for like you said, there was a second
Yeah.
where I forgot I couldn't share it, and I went,
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
man, So
Yeah.
the inability to share stuff is one of the biggest. I mean, that's when there was something, when that person was someone you shared things with, and that thing comes up, it's, if there's nobody else there, it's a weird,
Yeah.
this would have been theirs and it's nobody else.
Yeah. And the thing that I hope is a takeaway from this discussion is that, we all process death pretty much the same way, which is grief, and I don't know any Christians that haven't grieved, and the ones that do are, I mean, I don't know any, but if there are any that truly just walk around and be like, it's okay, I'll see him later, then
Like,
I'll be like, I think there's something wrong with you, because I've read the book. I know that the people in the book, whenever their ancestors passed, they grieved. They, it was like, it was a
if
big deal
I
to
mean,
mourn the grieving, or the dead. I'm sorry. So,
I know I'm conflating this word with the religion when I say this, but that act in and of itself, not caring when somebody dies because you
mhm.
believe in that, that seems very sociopathic to me.
It does
Like, it's,
feel a little detached from reality.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Because it's like, are you human or a robot?
Where are those
Because,
feelings outside of the
yeah.
religion? Where are the feelings anyone else would have?
Yeah, because I mean, you had a relationship, because a relationship is one where you have constant, ongoing back and forth communication. You're probably going to have disagreements. You're going to have things you agree upon. You're going to have happy moments. You're going to have sad moments. That's what a relationship actually
Most people cry
is.
over a breakup where something went wrong.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
why wouldn't you cry over a death?
Yeah. So it makes sense to me. And, so if you're not grieving, it doesn't mean you have to cry all the time, but it does mean that you have to, I feel the loss. That's what
I
grieving really
I
is,
know I have a lot of grieving to do,
Yeah.
because I'm not saying I'm not intentionally pushing it down, but when it comes up, it comes in waves, and I go, oh, whoa, there's a lot there.
Yeah. And once you get in your 40s, that starts the wave of people that or that are in your circles, that they start to drop off. It's a little at first, right? It's just like a random one here or there, but then as you just keep getting older, you keep going, "Oh yeah, they died." And then as you get much older, get into the elderly phase of your life, then I mean, it's just like, well, when's my turn? Because you're just kind of looking around your shoulder like, oh
There's
yeah,
no
I
way
could
to
be
know how
next.
you'll feel. There's no way to know how you'll feel when that happens,
Hmm.
but I really like to think that I will be able to take it in stride, because I'm very sold on this is it.
Yeah, I am too. Which I don't know. We should probably wrap this up, but parlay it into something positive. Like that. You have to know. We think that this is it. That is our conclusion. We've concluded that, when we die, I'll be cremated. It's like, hey, atheist, what do you think happens when you die? I like to say, well, my instructions are to be cremated. So when it's cheaper, we'll get back to that in a second. You know, um, Ultimately, I think we need to remember to live. And it's so hard to do these days, like really truly remember how to live, because the world's going through, it's not limited to the United States anymore. It might have been caused by that, but it's a global problem. Or I would argue that I am definitely now more in tune with things going on around the world that are bad and have been bad for a long time. So you do have to find ways to continue to enjoy life. Go see
Sure.
that ball game, man. Go to a concert. Go to go dancing while you can, because one of these days you're going to get sick, and it'll be that last time that you're able to do things and you didn't know. And
That
so
that just reminds me of something, and I want to say it quickly because as a reference, uh, Alan Watts, if anybody knows who he is,
yeah, did a lot of mushrooms. No.
yeah, a great little speech skit he does on how life is about the dance. And when you're listening to music, it's about the actual dance that's happening. Nothing before, nothing after. There's no end point. Look that up on YouTube, Alan
Okay.
Watts, and it's about enjoying the dance of life and not looking for an end game or to have a goal.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. It's like a couple minute thing.
Mm-hmm.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
But it is. It's just this summation of it is. What's the point of dancing? It's to
Yeah.
dance. There's
It's to
nothing.
dance.
There's no
There's
other
no
point. It's
point. Yeah.
literally to dance, and that's, as an atheist, how I feel about life. What's the point? Where are we trying to get to? It's about the fucking dance. So let's dance.
It's about the journey.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm here and then I won't be. And so I might as well enjoy things and learn. I love when I discover something, new. Like that's
Once
what
I
I love about life,
once I fell in love with learning,
Mhm.
it really is like I'm not even joking. I'm tingling right now because I just heard you do the whole man. I love learning that, and it also makes it easier to say you don't know or you're wrong when you're wrong, because the next step is to learn something new, which is another
Yeah.
amazing experience. And it's like, because I was able to say I was wrong, then I get that wonderful feeling of learning what I didn't know. And I guess I got lucky and fell in love with learning. You said earlier having a friend, a libertarian, a guy who was like, I call him my Caucasian Mr. Miyagi. He was basically, he was like my boss, and we worked side by side for double-digit years. And he was libertarianish, Tea Party type guy, but he taught me how to think, not what to think. And I
Yeah.
became this
Yeah.
because of him.
Yeah.
Every time I would ask a question, he would go, "Look it up." Or he would give me a hint as to how to figure it out, not tell me the
Right.
answer. And that man, his name is Greg, that man taught me. He was the closest thing I had to a father in that sense. My father was around, but not that type of teacher. And I worked with that man side by side from the time I was 23 till 35, so formative years. And that's where I learned. He introduced me to Christopher Hitchens, which introduced me to the Four Horsemen, which introduced me to my atheism. I mean, so, in general, what you're seeing, this anti-theist, was born of sitting next to a libertarian Tea Party guy who said, learn to think for yourself.
I did say that to my friend at one point. I said, dude, you're such a contrarian that I'm really shocked that you're a believer. And I was still a believer at that time, but I'm like, I don't know why I was willing to be like, well, I accept it, but I'm a little shocked that, like, you're so far contrarian. Like, whatever you say, I'll be like, oh, this guy's pretty blue today. Be like, well, is it really blue? Because really, if you think about how, colors are reflected through the cornea, or light is reflected through, and it's just like, oh my gosh, dude. Like,
This
sometimes
this
it was a bit
this
much.
guy was
But
like Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged, Gadsden Flag
um Not
combination.
not so much the flag, but
No, I was saying my guy.
like, but oh, your guy. Well, I was going to say my friend had mentioned Rand before, yeah. So an Atlas
I'm
shrugged and
sorry
all
for
that
anybody
kind of
listening.
stuff.
The
So
Gadsden flag is the Tea Party flag. The
it's the Tea Party. I hate
snake.
that.
Yeah.
I loved
Don't
that
tread
flag
on me.
I loved that flag until modern day, and now I'm like, ugh, you
He was
ruined my
this guy was the
flag.
type
It
of
was
guy. this guy was the type of guy who had, you'll get this. He had like coins and bars buried.
Yep, I get that completely. Same
he
guy.
was that type of dude.
My friend was the same guy. I'm not saying he's wrong, because the funny thing about gold, you bury it, and in 1,000 years you could probably still have some value. Can't do that with hardly any currency. But can I transition to one other thing, because we really haven't talked about it. And since you said I don't really have any limits, so your dad's not really in the picture and never really has been, but you just said that you still have some communication there?
No, he passed.
Oh, he passed. Okay.
But he passed within a year of my mother.
Oh,
he passed just before she went on hospice. But him and I were estranged.
Yeah. So
but only hadn't spoken for a couple of years, because I wouldn't cut him off for so long because of my mother. She felt like, he's your father, you have to at least give it a shot. And because I cared so much about her, basically with him, he was in my life casually. He was one of those every other weekend fathers, but every other weekend would get canceled every third weekend. I would sit outside waiting, and he was supposed to show up to pick me up, and presents in the mail, that type of father. But sometimes we saw each other. I would go on vacation with his family, his second family or his third family here and there as a kid. So it was like he existed, and I knew him. And I actually liked him. Like, he was a likable guy, but he wasn't a good father. So, like, when I was a teenager and my friends met him, they were like, he's great. Why don't you like him? And it was like, because he wants to do cocaine and hookers with me. That's why you like him. And I'm not trying to be funny. I mean, that's is not an exaggeration.
Not an exaggeration.
They thought he was awesome because he's a party guy. And for me, it was like, but that's my dad. I don't have a dad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And your dad.
So, like, I would have loved to hang out with him if he wasn't my father.
Yeah. Yeah. Sex Workers and Below is not, with your dad is really not a fatherly thing. I mean, it's that's wild.
Seriously, that's not a joke. Like, in my late teens, early 20s, it was offered to me from my father as a way that we can finally connect.
Yeah.
He just didn't. Everything in me was like, man, he has no fucking clue who I am.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there. Like, you'd have to go back into his childhood and like.
Well, a lot of guys think they're safe around other guys because we're all scumbags, and then they open up to me. I mean, not just me. I'm sure a lot of guys, and I'm like, whoa, what the? Where is this coming from? My father didn't see any. I mean, I told you about multiple, wives cheating and whatever. Even later in life, he didn't see anything wrong with the hookers, even though he was married. And he's like, well, yeah, I do blow, but I go to work.
Yeah,
it was like, what? Nothing about him saw that. And I'm being honest, as a kid. Naive kid, why does my daddy always have the sniffles? I genuinely, and I'm not even joking, he would tell me that he had allergies.
Yeah.
I didn't know until I was like 19 that my father was a cokehead. Just thought he had really bad allergies.
Well, yeah. My favorite joke about cocaine is that I don't like it. I just like the way it smells. So, okay. Well, I didn't realize. Sorry.
And side note, my energy level. Cocaine. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Of course. No, that's for people who don't do this.
Who don't do
and that's why I use marijuana. My marijuana gets me to regular people level.
Yeah, right. Get it scaled down a little bit. So okay, I didn't realize we're both in the Dead Parents Club, like all together, I mean, even
that's the other thing, as much as I didn't care about him at that point, it's becoming an orphan when both of your parents are gone, technically.
Yeah.
A different feeling.
I've heard that phrase, like an adult orphan, which sounds wrong, like that can't be right. And then I'm like, well, technically, that parents. Is true. I think one of the things that hit me after my last parent died, for me, it was my dad, and for you, your mom, is the reality that, like, oh shit, I'm the fucking grown up in the room now, aren't I? I'm like,
yeah.
I don't understand. Mom had all the recipes and stuff, and she was an amazing cook, and she made this pumpkin roll like around Thanksgiving that I always enjoyed.
Yo, can you stop for a second?
Yeah.
My mom made a pumpkin roll.
Oh yeah?
With cream cheese,
Yeah.
Oh, that was like one of her things.
That was the thing. Like whenever, so I moved 3 hours away.
I'd never heard of pumpkin roll outside of my mother. I mean, like, I didn't realize it was a thing.
And I would come home. We would come home and bring the grandkids and all that kind of stuff at Thanksgiving. There would always be pumpkin roll because she knew that I liked it, and it was amazing. I've yet to eat another one that has touched it. You know, maybe there's nostalgia flavors falling in there, but and like Dad knew how to fix everything, right? I was like, my dad, I felt like he could fix everything. It might have been, hot glued and duct taped together, but it was fixed at least
appearance wise.
And then I'm like, oh shit, like I'm that guy now. I have to be that person. And then you start realizing like your own limitations. And then I think about some of the limitations that they probably had that I just overlooked or whatever, Right. And it's really scary. That was the moment that I felt the most scared, was losing both parents. Just because of the, like, I'm a grown up now and I don't know that I know how to do that.
That for me was losing her, because it would have been that way with just her, even if my father was still alive, kind of,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an odd feeling, and you really realize too that there's no adult. I mean, like there's not a point where you get it, or you consider yourself the one who has it together and understands everything. A lot of us just, whether it's intentional or not, put on some type of facade to others that makes it look like we've got it all together. A lot of us aren't faking it. It just seems to everybody else because they don't hear the gears grinding in our head.
Exactly. Yeah.
So everybody looks like they've got it together to everybody else, and nobody does.
Yeah. Really processing things here and trying to be as stoic as possible on the outside, but on the inside, I'm like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure things out.
I've watched myself on podcasts. I'm being very serious, like this, where when I get done filming, I go, "Oh my God, I was horrible. I couldn't have said a word. I couldn't speak. I couldn't see straight." And then I watch it, and I'm like, "Oh, it's fine." Which means from the inside, I was horrible. From the outside, I was not. And that's probably happening a lot. So I think it's given me the view of the recording is what they're watching. Like the recording I watch of myself is what everybody sees all the time.
Right. They're not
and that's
watching
much better
the
than
rewind.
What I think. It's better than what
they're not
feel.
watching the replay in your head. They're watching what you did at the time. Yeah.
And my mistake from 15 minutes ago that I'm dwelling on a tiny bit back there, they don't know.
Yeah.
They might not even see the mistake.
Oh no, I marked it so I could actually like cut out a clip and like just put it on a loop. Yeah, got 15. Okay, got it. Great. That's a joke. So, all right. Well, I think we should probably wrap up. I'm thinking about you though, because you still have the rest of the year to go with the firsts. And I feel for
Mother's
you,
Day coming up.
Yeah, that's a fucking bullshit holiday. The creator of Mother's Day, she hated it. I like to bring that up because it's one of the things that actually gives me peace, is that the creator of Mother's Day, who advocated for it, where all she wanted was for people to send a letter to their mom. A letter. That's it. Just send a letter. Just to let you know, hey, Mom, I'm proud of what all you do. That's it. So, and then it became commercialized, and she actively campaigned against it until her dying day. So I can't think of her name, but I look this up every year because I usually post something about it. But yeah, it's like, don't sweat Mother's Day because the creator hated it. And if you want to honor both her and your mom, just think about them. I think that'll be good enough. Yeah.
Isn't the original
Eve the original
first mother?
No, actually, I would have to get out my copy of
mitochondrial Eve.
Let me get out my copy of the Enuma Elish, and I'd have to.
Oh, there we go. Different one.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Which original are we talking about here?
The original one in the Abrahamics. We're starting over again.
Oh yes. Okay.
We're starting over again.
We're starting over again. But yeah, so I'll be thinking of you I'll be praying for you. Sorry, I can't say that without laughing. I will not be praying for you throughout the rest of the year, just because I know what it's like. That you got to go through that first year with someone that you're really, really close to, and it just, it's just, it is what it is, man.
Yeah, it's gonna suck.
Yeah,
but there's positives that come along with it too. We did have a great relationship, and I'll end it with her on this. as much as I've bitched about the troubles caused to us by religion and the way our different beliefs tore us apart, they wouldn't have been that horrible if we weren't so close to begin with. Like, she was my person, and I loved her so much. That's why I care so much about this, because I saw how invasive it can be when you're so close to someone. If there's that difference between you and it's not questionable, and it's not malleable, this is finite. You're wrong, I'm right. That can do a lot of damage to a relationship. That can do a lot of damage to a species. And we're seeing it with people trying to enact their laws and rules, even just in America with Christian nationalism. When you say this is right and that is wrong, without proof, when we're not using logic, reason, and the scientific method to evaluate it, we can't do that, which is why it's so important to differentiate between our beliefs and our knowledge. You can believe that you're going to go to heaven afterward, but you cannot say that I'm going to hell.
Yeah.
That's simple.
Yeah. Well, I would argue that a lot of Christians can't say they know for a fact they're going to heaven, because even the book is strangely unclear. I mean, depends on how you read it. And
the God of no confusion is so confusing.
So confusing. Agreed.